Yo folks, welcome back. In Bitwig Studio 5.3 we not only have a new step sequencer called Stepwise, we also have new modules here inside of the grid to create step sequencers more easily. And maybe you can remember some of my videos from end of last year. I tried to create polyrhythms and polymeters or Euclidean step sequences inside of the grid. And it was not that easy. We needed some modules patched together, calculating stuff here and there just to have a loop inside of your sequence and offset this loop and so on. But step access makes this much easier. We can dial in here the loop length, we can change the total amount of steps, we can offset, we can change the playback speed and so on. So everything is basically in here in this module that you kind of want from an Euclidean step sequencer. And we can combine this here, let's say, with the pitches module, right? And we have here a sequence in there, a lot of different notes. Maybe I dial in here my P sharp minor scale, something like this. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And the playhead is already playing here because we have here the phase precord enabled. We can disable this and then just drive this module here with the step access output. So the step access kind of just generates a phase signal that you can use for these type of sequences inside of the grid. We select your step access and then go to the left side, and we can use free run when stopped, which means we output here a phase signal even though we have the transport on hold. So if this is disabled, we have to press play actually here on the sequencer to actually drive this pitches module here. But for this here, for this video, I use free run when stopped. So, okay. So now we play this here back from left to right, but you can see we only play a portion of the sequence. Because we selected here the length of 4. So we play 4 steps out of 8 steps in total. We can also say 2 steps, right? So it loops here over the first 2 steps. We can also offset this by, let's say, 2. So now it skips the first 2 steps and then starts here with the 3rd step and then loops over these 2 steps. So you have total control basically over the sequence when you want to start, how you want to start, how much you want to loop or how many steps you want to loop. And we can change the playback speed here with 8 notes, 16 notes. So it's faster, or 32 notes, much faster. But it also means we have your only time-based units. So it's not like you can dial in hertz or something, or milliseconds or something like this, so something in between. You can only choose here some whole units, more or less, right? But what we can do is we can dial in here, let's say 8/8, back to 0, and then go to quarter note. So now we play each step here with quarter note speed, kind of, or each step is basically a quarter note long. Let's put it this way. So you can also change the speed by changing the total amount. At the moment we have 8 steps, but we have also dialed in here 8 steps in total. But when you go down, let's say to 4 here, we play this back twice the speed or double speed, more or less. We can also halve this here again to 2. And now we play back in 16 notes, even though we have your quarter note selected, or 1, which is probably a 32 note speed. So we can also influence the speed by changing here the total amount of steps, even though we have not the right amount selected. So this value, or this total amount of steps, needs to be lower than the total amount of steps here in the sequencer to play it actually faster. If we have 8 here and then we put this up to 16 steps, right? It's probably slower then. Probably not. Let's see, 16, 32. It takes a while until it, passes here the whole sequence. So yeah, it's kind of slower. So what this means is that here we have some kind of whole steps. We can select different playback speeds, but with this we can say, instead of halving this to 4, which is then the next unit here, we can also choose something in between, let's say 6. And you can see this then when we duplicate this here and say 8. And here we use quarter note, right? Then we hit play here to reset this. You can see it plays back at a different speed. And it resets then exactly after 8 steps. That's interesting. So maybe I make this here a bit slow, a bit faster. Let's go to 8 here and 8 here. Right? You can see how it resets then after 8 steps. So to make this a bit longer or to reset this later, we can make the length longer. So instead of 8, we choose here, let's say the maximum number of 64. We have not 64 steps in here, but it plays 64 steps until it resets, right? You can see here it plays and plays. And after 64 steps, then it resets back to the initial step together with this sequencer here. So maybe go to 16 here. So it should reset at some point. Yeah, so with these kind of tricks, you can influence the speed and also how long you loop over a sequence before you reset. So this is kind of interesting, and it's exactly what you want when you make these kind of polyrhythms, or you want to have polyrhythms where you have different speed settings, right? With different, or with the same sequence and different speed settings. This is kind of how it works. So we can utilize here for this also voice stacking, right? So we have a polygrid here, we have mono voices, we have voice stacking off. So we can say, let's use 2 voices. Now we have this doubled virtually, and we can change this with voice control. We have 2 voices. The first voice is how it is at the moment, how it plays. And, or let's say bring it down to 2 here. Only loop over the first 3 notes. 8 note, okay. And then the second voice uses 4. Step length of 4. And you can see we have now 2 playheads here, because we have 2 voices, and each voice uses a different length setting, which kind of creates here already a polyrhythm. Or is it the polymeter? It's probably a polymeter now because it uses the same speed setting. So let's hook this up here with a sine oscillator. Use the pitch for that here, and use a sample and hold, and use a gates module here. We use pulses, and you probably want to use the same phase signal. Drive here the sample and hold, and then use an envelope and trigger this, and we need an audio output. And we can increase this here to 3, and then the third uses maybe a different offset. And maybe go 2 down here, so we have different playback speed. And we have a nice polyrhythm. What we also can do is now use an octaver here. And say the first voice goes 1 octave down. The first or the second voice goes 1 octave higher. And the third voice stays where it is. So now it plays this kind of sequence over and over, and we can disrupt here the step axis maybe with a steps module. Use here 8/8, connect this and play this a bit slower. Oh, we have to remove here probably. Let's use here, use the step axis. And then we modulate here the length maybe to 3. And then we can define at the end of the sequence here. Right, so we have kind of a bar or 2 bars, the same melody, and then at the 3rd bar we have, you know, a bit of difference in terms of the melody because we change here the length. And we have always the same melody or the same motive, right? So this is kind of interesting when you have a melody and you want to be a bit more creative with this kind of melody and you want to loop over this melody over these notes in kind of different ways with the polyrhythm or the polymeter, and yeah, you can hear it. You can create these kind of interesting patterns. It's pretty fun to play around with this, actually. So every voice gets a different setting for some of these parameters, and you can create interesting sequences with this. So yeah, and because the step axis module gives you just a normal phase signal, we can use all these phase modules here we have already. So let's say reverse some of the stuff. Or use a mirror. That's more or less stuff you can do with voice stacking, so it's very fun, very easy. We can also remove your voice stacking for now and just go back to just one voice. So we can also see that the grid has all these signals here, and these signals are not mono signals. They are all stereo signals, everything. Pitch signals, audio signals, phase signals, everything is a stereo signal, which means we have a dedicated left and right channel. So we can use merge and split modules here that are usually used for audio signals. We can use these on all of these different signals here to split things up. So we can say, let's go with the step axis here in the left channel, right? Right channel is nothing in there, but we can also use here for the right channel something different. Maybe don't modulate this here. Right, so we have a different step axis for the left channel, a different step axis for the right channel. Combining it into a stereo signal, then going into this thing here, in this pitches module. And then we kind of select different modules. You can't see it in the GUI here. You see just one playhead, but actually internally it uses different steps. And then we go here into the sine oscillator. And the sine oscillator is also a stereo oscillator, which means it has a dedicated sine oscillator of the left channel and the right channel. So what we have now should be different melodies on the left and the right. Maybe you can hear it. Right? Left channel plays something completely different than the right channel. So we can push this even further. We have here an octaver on the stereo signal, which means we can push up the left and the right together 1 octave or 1 octave down, something like this. But we only want to push up the left channel an octave higher, and maybe the right channel we want to push it an octave lower. So we can do here the same thing. We go here with a split. So left channel goes an octaver, and the right channel goes also in 1, and then we combine it back together, right? So now it sounds like this. So now the sine oscillator plays on the left channel completely different sequence, but in a completely different octave than the right channel or the right oscillator. And that's maybe a bit too drastic, because left and right completely different is, you know, it's usually not nice to hear. So we can use a stereo, what's the name? Stereo width, exactly. We can put this in here and can bring the left and the right channel closer together, or we try to make it more mono. So this kind of works, so it's not that far apart anymore. We can also use this on the pitch itself. So this has an interesting effect, because we are mixing pitch signals together, right? Which means they are probably influencing each other the more we pull this down. Because remember, we have a different pitch signal on the left and the right channel, completely different, and this here brings them closer together. Kind of interesting, but not always useful. So if you don't want to use voice stacking and you want to make use sometimes of one pitch module, of one gate module, or maybe one sine oscillator, remember these are all stereo signals, and you can make 2 out of them if you want to. If you want to use the stereo feature here of the sine oscillator, then it's probably not possible, because then you already use the left and the right channel. But if you just use mono sine oscillators here, you can always remember that you have actually 2 with just 1 module, and you can split here all these signals with a stereo split and stereo merge then together, and, you know, twist and change them differently on the right and the left channel, and then combine it back together, and it has sometimes a nice effect. So if you want to be efficient with the grid, you can do this here with the stereo signals. So yeah, I think that's it for this video for now. I just want to show you basically the step access, and that it's possible to create polyrhythms and polymeters more easily with this type of module here, combined with all the rest of the sequencers of the grid. What's it here? Data. So you can use this with all these things here, and yeah, create interesting overlapping rhythms or sequences with this. That's it for this video. Leave a like, leave a subscription, let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you have questions or something like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.